Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm the Community Food Nutrition Worker from South Dublin County Partnership. Today we're going to cook some chicken fingers. So firstly I have my George Foreman preheating, so you can also do so in an oven or the air fryer, whatever you have access to. So I've just washed my hands and cleaned down the surface. So firstly we're just going to cut up our chicken. So I have pre-cut most of my chicken, so I'm just going to chop up my final breast. There's 4 chicken breasts altogether. So just into strip-like pieces and all similar size so they have the same cooking time. So I'm just going to move my chicken to the side, and next we have our 2 eggs. So we're just going to crack both into the bowl. And then we have a fork just to whisk them up. I'm going to leave them aside, and next we have our bread. So this is a fresh loaf, however you can also use stale bread. So if you just blitz up some stale bread and freeze it, or use it just straight away, or also heels of bread if that's something that you don't use. It prevents food waste and you can use them in this recipe. So I'm just turning on my weighing scales. And we need 50 grams of bread. I also opted for a whole grain, a multigrain option, just as it has more fibre than the white. So we can use one of the heels. So it's just about a slice and a half. We're going to add it now to our NutriBullet. So now I have the bread blitzed up. You can also use a hand blender for this if you don't have any sort of smoothie maker. And we also need 50 grams of oats. So I have 50 grams of the oats weighed out, so I'm going to add in the breadcrumbs. And mix that together. I'm going to now scatter that. And next we're going to grab our plain flour and weigh out 25 grams of plain flour. We will now scatter that onto the second plate. So we have our oats and bread mixture, our flour mixture, and also our whisked egg. Next we will grab some of our rapeseed oil, and the reason why I opted for rapeseed oil is because it tends to be cheaper than olive oil. So whichever one is cheaper in your local supermarket, opt for that option. So I'm just going to do 2 spoons of oil. This is optional. You may not need to add oil, but I like just to rub a small amount onto the George Foreman. Now, so as you can see, just a small amount goes a long way. So that's enough oil. So now we're going to assemble the chicken fingers. So we grab our first piece of chicken, dip it into the flour, and next we dip it into our egg mixture. And then finally our oat and breadcrumb mixture. As you can see, they're nicely coated, and then add them onto our George Foreman. So then we just continue this flour mixture, followed by the egg, and then our breadcrumb and oat mixture. And then you just close them down and let them cook. They will cook a bit faster in the George Foreman compared to the oven, so we'll just keep an eye on them. So they should be ready now. So I'm just going to check one to make sure it's cooked. I'm going to take it off the George Foreman and just cut it in half. And that is all cooked through. So usually they take 15 to 20 minutes in the oven, but in the George Foreman it's about less than 10, it's about 8 to 10. So just being cautious of that the timing is a little bit shorter. You can also add other components to this, such as paprika or other seasonings. Just make sure to check the ingredients list, as some seasonings tend to be higher in salt. So the chicken is prepared. So you can eat them in many ways. So maybe with some veg and potatoes, on a salad, in a whole grain wrap with some hummus or guacamole and salad. So if you would like to freeze them, you can do so by preparing the raw chicken in the flour, the egg and the oat and bread mixture. Put them on a flat tray, add them to the freezer, let them freeze overnight, add them to a bag the next morning and make sure to label them with the date. The food pyramid is a visual guide to a healthy diet. It can help us understand the food we need in the right amounts each day. The foods on the bottom of the pyramid are the foods we need most often, while the foods on the top shelf are occasional foods and are not needed for good health. After seeing the food pyramid, think about or write down what you ate and drank yesterday. How does it compare to the food pyramid? Maybe you could think of one thing to work on during the next week. Perhaps increase your fruit and vegetable intake, or maybe opt for whole grain or brown carbohydrate sources, or reduce top shelf foods.